Hello and welcome to episode 103 of the Greenway Outdoors podcast. My name is Kyle Green.
Mandy Harling, National Director of Education and Outreach for the NWTF.
Mark Hatfield, National Director of Conservation Services for the NWTF.
And I'm Ryan Parks, producer of the Greenway Outdoors.
If they don't know you by now, they're not going to, right?
Yeah, right.
So as you can probably tell, we're in a little bit of a different setting than normal. We're at the National Wild Turkey Federation 50th Anniversary Convention. And oh my gosh, the hustle and bustle here. People can probably hear it in the background, but this place is packed.
It's wild.
We were on Greenway Outdoors time for sure. Like we were going to be 20 minutes late, but we were worse than that simply because there are so many people here. This place is packed out. Do we have any guesstimate on a number of how many people have probably come through the door already?
I don't know how many people have come through the door, but it's projected that we could reach 60,000 people through here this week.
I would completely believe it because as I'm looking, and then walking here was the hardest part. Just getting through the convention and get to the Bass Pro Shop.
I think there's 59,000 people here now.
I know.
It feels like it.
But that's great because, when you think about it, we spend so much time, especially us at the Greenway Outdoors, traveling the world, trying to teach people about conservation, trying to teach people about the outdoors, and then to come to an expo like this, see all these people here, all excited about the same thing, coming here, circling around conservation, having those conversations. Everybody's so nice and cheerful. Like it's a cool experience to get to be around like-minded people and let us know and let you guys know that like your hard work all year long is actually making an impact. Like all these people in here know what NWTF is. They know what it stands for. They know what we're trying to raise funds for, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's a great way to reach new audiences too. We'll bring in people from Tennessee that if the weather's bad, that's always a good day on the exhibit hall floor, and we have a bunch of stuff for kids to do too. So you'll see a lot of variety of people and ages here.
Yeah, if you haven't been to the convention before, I would recommend going. Simply for the experience of this facility.
Yeah.
It's like the hotel's inside. There's like a riverboat tour down there. There's restaurants. There's a Cinnabon, which I haven't given in on yet, but I'm probably gonna. But there's so much going on aside from just what's going on here. Like you said, coming in from the bad weather and getting to experience these things. And there's a lot of interactive stuff. We are at the Bass Pro Shops booth right now, and there's a lot to do here as well. So for anyone interested in it. But for this podcast, and the sake of it, I want to dive into a lot about your mission, conservation, and let people know what happens. People buy a membership to nonprofits a lot of times because they're excited about going to a wild game dinner. They're excited about going to a different event. But what we do all year long, and we're raising those funds for, is more important. And there's so much that goes into preserving and conserving the turkey, aside from just buying your membership and getting a magazine here and there. And I've been doing a lot of research, and some of it. There's a lot of new information out. Like for last night, I was looking at it, and it said in the last 10 years, NWTF has conserved or enhanced, and the number I read at that time was 4.4 million acres of wildlife habitat. But it's more than that now.
It is more than that, and it's crazy because just the momentum we've had as an organization and all the hard work that's been done. We've actually, over the past 10 years and the completion of the Save the Habitat, Save the Land initiative, it's been 5.2 million acres in the past 10 years. And that you couple that with 22 million acres since our inception, which is greater than the size of South Carolina. I mean, the hard work of the volunteers and the partners are just, it's amazing.
Now, people hear these numbers, over 5 million acres and that sort of thing in 10 years conserved. What does that mean? Like, what gets our stamp of approval, like, we've conserved that or we've helped that?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Well, the one thing we're doing is we're working directly with our volunteers and state wildlife agencies to make sure we're funding the right projects. So they actually have a selection process for the ones that they fund on the local level. And then we have professional staff from around the country. I mean, nearly 70 biologists or foresters on staff that are educated, they have a degree, and they're the professionals on the ground making choices for that. So we don't take it lightly that we're going to fund the right projects in the right place with the right people.
So basically what you're saying is like there's an analyzation of pitches, if you will. Like people are like, hey, if we have this property, it's 100 acres, and if we did this, and this, it would make it that much better for turkey habitat. And then you guys would come in and fund that project.
That's right.
So how do people go about, let's say you had one of those projects that you felt would be great for turkey conservation in the future. How would someone go about getting that to you guys?
Yeah, so that's really done through our state chapter. So they actually put out a call at the request for proposals, many of them do, and they make an application to them and say, we want to do this. And then we have a team of volunteers and then a wildlife biologist and the turkey biologist for the state agency sits down and says, these are the best ones we're going to fund. These are going to leverage our dollars the furthest. They're going to have the greatest impact for us and the turkey. And then they select down and they just work back through their budget. So they're always funding the highest, I guess, the best projects every year.
So if someone wanted to submit a project to you, they would just go on the website or what?
They would contact their local staff there in the state. They could find that information out on our website, and then they can say, hey, well, I'd like to be able to apply for some of the state funds. Now, a lot of these funds are done on public lands because we want to fund projects that are going to benefit all hunters, all recreationists, and have the greatest impact. The ones that we do on private lands, they work back through a program within the state, and they can select that funding as well. So the best thing to do is contact your local biologist, your staff, to be able to see how and when that funding cycle will be.
Now, aside from the funding that you guys do for conserving specific lands, you also have a lot of research projects going on right now. And I think, was it 7?
Yeah, so
in 6 states, 7, and something like $360,000.
Yeah, so last year in June of 2022, we actually allotted funding to 7 projects in 6 states, and that for a tune of a little over $362,000. That was coupled and paired with $2.4 million from other partners. So it was $2.7 million and some change of research going on for wild turkeys. It was in Texas, Georgia, South Carolina, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Mississippi.
What are some of your favorite projects from that grouping? Like,
well,
one that sticks out to you? That
there's a couple. One of those is one that's being done in South Carolina, and they are actually looking at the reproductive ecology and the breeding cycle for an unhunted population of wild turkeys. We have a large land holding that's not hunted, and so they're trying to see what is the relationship that hunting has on wild turkey breeding and breeding cycles, because that's a question of why are we seeing this slow poult recruitment for turkeys. Another one is we're looking at disease. We're looking at some disease with the Southeast Wildlife Disease Study Group. Sorry for that long terminology there. No. But they're actually veterinarians, and they're looking at wildlife disease and the impact it could have on wild turkey populations at a peripheral level. So all of these things are just trying to understand why are we seeing low poult recruitment and why are we seeing this unstable turkey population.
So and these studies would help you, in return, the hope for these studies is it'll help you allocate money better to certain areas, like you can foresee the problems coming?
You can foresee the problems coming, or you can adjust your management strategies or your harvest strategies to ensure that we are not having an unintended consequence, or we're doing something, or we're collecting new data. The way we used to do research is 20 years ago, well, we're in a different time now.
Right.
Habitat's different, there's different pressures, there's different variables, so we have to relearn some things, and that investment's going to come. So we're going to be, right now, across the country, there's more wild turkey research being done on a large scale more now than since 1980. I mean, that's a huge investment. In addition to the funding that we were doing for those 7 projects out of the national selected projects, our state chapters are working across multiple states: Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, and they're funding research at the local level in conjunction with that academic school and the state wildlife agency. So we're making heavy investments in research to understand why are the turkey populations in an unstable manner right now.
It's funny that you say that too, is people might hear this and they might be like, okay, they're giving money towards turkey conservation, or they're doing some research, and they may not understand the impact of how important that information is. Equating it to deer, something a lot of people understand. There's more white-tailed deer in North America right now than ever in recorded history because of hands-on conservation and dollars that are put in. Look at the whitetail, for instance. Now, my dad, he was taught you do not shoot does. You do not shoot does. And the reason why he was taught that by his dad was because at that time, 1920s, they had pretty much wiped out all the white-tailed deer. So nobody shot does to try and get the population numbers up. So my dad was living off of that old information that got passed along to me. Yep. And if I didn't do the research to know now, and the research hadn't been done, that like killing does is important. Like you have to kill doe in order to make the population stable. And killing more can cause better reproduction, more reproduction, the buck to doe ratio is so important, which makes a healthy deer population. Well, in the same instance with turkeys, if we can, it's almost like we're still at that doe stage, right? Like where we have to gain that last piece of information and these, from these 7 projects, so that we can make better decisions and implement these things, so that we know exactly what to do to actually make the turkey populations go up even higher.
Yeah, I mean it's a crazy thing when you think about it. But to give you a little perspective on the deer option, we're talking about, if you take a female deer off the population, that's going to impact the number of deer you have. We have to understand what's the impact if we take a male out of the population.
Because that's most of what anyone hunts for turkeys, right?
So we don't understand, it's not as simple in the pecking order of turkeys. That's a year-long process for them to establish that breeding structure within the flock. I mean, you've heard the term pecking order. That's real. And so we go kill or harvest a male, the dominant male. We don't know exactly what that means, if that prolongs the breeding cycle, if it shortens the breeding cycle, if that male is immediately replaced in the population and is then selected by that female. Because that's what's going on, is that female goes to the male turkey when you think about turkey biology. So does that delay her reproduction?
Right.
Within? So it's a complex system, and we want to maximize it to make sure we understand that relationship, so we don't set seasons that are not biologically sound.
And you always hear, especially with duck hunting too, people complaining about the different seasons. Oh, it's too early in Michigan. The flights didn't even happen yet, and that sort of thing. But you guys are really the only ones fighting for the turkey. I mean, you're bringing other organizations in to help you, but you guys are like it. And turkey hunting is so important to so many people. Anyone that really deer hunts, it's one of those things where everybody that hunts fishes, but not everybody that fishes hunts. Well, almost everybody that hunts has some relationship with turkey hunting in some way, shape, or form, especially if they deer hunt. And you guys are really the only ones around to help save that. And I think that's why it's so important, and why we're partnering with you guys is turkey hunting is so important to me, and you guys are the only ones here to help. And you're doing a good job structurally, too. If you guys look at your reports in as far as how much money is spent towards conservation and the mission versus how much is wasted, because you look at some nonprofits and you give them money and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have said no at Best Buy when they asked me to add $25. You guys have such a good rating, which is one of the main reasons why we wanted to work with you, and you're obviously helping the turkey, which is something I care so deeply about. Yeah. But since your conception in 1973, you've obviously made such a big difference. How many acres have you impacted? You say, is it over 22 million?
Over 22 million acres impacted.
Now, would you say that your mission is shifting as far as not as much on acreage and more on research?
No, our mission is where it's at. It's dedicated to the conservation of the wild turkey and preservation of hunting heritage, which Mandy will talk a little bit about. But it's steadfast to that. Our tactics may be changing, and our strategies may be changing, because we have to evolve and adapt to the world today, right? We're 50 years older. I wasn't even born, when we were founded in 1973. So we have to change our tactics, but we're rooted in our mission, and it's not changing. And research is something that's been important, and sometimes we've been able to take our foot off the gas pedal there, put our foot on the gas pedal for outreach and education, and take advantage of those opportunities. And so now you have to find that balance of when you apply pressure to which one to make sure you can take advantage of those opportunities.
This may be a difficult question to answer, but I've always wondered about organizations that are specific to an animal. Have you guys seen in the research how your mission may be helping other species?
Oh yeah. When we think about what we're doing for wild turkeys, right? It's healthy forests, it's water, it's creating recreational opportunities that we're going to hear about, and resilient communities, which is not only a healthy industry around them, but it's the tourism industry. We know there's numerous destination cities across the country that people fly into to turkey hunt in the economy. We created a program for scoring and registering your Grand Slam with us to propagate and to promote travel. But when we're doing work for the wild turkey, we're doing work, primarily the work for what we're doing is going to directly benefit wild turkeys. But we try to find ways to leverage funds from others so we can make sure that we're using as many dollars as we can to magnify our delivery. So when we're doing this, we're addressing a wildfire crisis by taking dead standing trees off the landscape, and we're using those trees to That way, and we want to reduce wildfires in the West because that impacts water quality, it impacts and recreational opportunities. So turkeys are the tool and the leverage point we can do to get the work done. But we're impacting work on red cockaded woodpeckers in the southeast, gopher tortoises, pupfish, Massasauga rattlesnakes, spotted owls. I mean, it's a crazy thing, but we're doing it in the name of the wild turkey.
That's great.
So basically, to simplify it for my simple mind, you've got the turkey, and you're using the turkey in these different instances because, let's say there's a bunch of burned down forest, and it's giving really no benefit, and going in and clear cutting would do a lot of benefit to bring back new growth. That's going to help all species, but it'll definitely help the turkey. And because you're going in there and able to do it for the turkey, it follows the mission of the nonprofit, but at the same time, by doing that mission, you're turning that new land into something great that's going to benefit a lot of species, not only that. We had talked on the phone specifically about, I want to say, was it Montana or was it Wyoming?
Wyoming.
Okay.
Yeah,
we had talked
the little Wyoming town.
Yeah, we had talked about a Wyoming town where the mill was like their main source of income there, and then turkey hunting was the main source of income. And I think it's kind of the perfect example of how the wild turkey is helping a specific community.
Yeah, so we're working on a very early pilot with U.S. Forest Service and a mill in Hewlett, Wyoming, and where we're trying to test our ability to take fiber or wood product and get it to the mill where they need it. And we know that we have mills across the country and they don't have a wood source anymore. It's not there. So for us to do more forest management in the West and then eventually in the East, we have to take the timber where we have it and we have to get it to the place that can use it. But when you think about Hewlett, Wyoming was where this place is at, and we're testing it. This is going to be for an industry-wide effort for all mills in forest infrastructure in the West.
That's big.
You know, so but we're having to test it somewhere. But it's a small town. It's a destination city for turkey hunting. If you show up to Hewlett, Wyoming in April, you're going to be turkey hunting. That's why you're there. It's close to Devil's Tower National Park.
Yep.
It's got a small community, but it's a destination. And once those jobs ever go away for that infrastructure, that town is going to suffer, and you're going to lose momentum, and you're going to lose that way of life. So it's important for us to invest in those areas, test this out, figure out how it's going to work, and then be able to replicate that for the other industry in these other small towns. That's where these hunters are going. That's where we're doing outreach programs. That's where that lifestyle is going to live. And man, so it's going to be ultimately really important for that. And I think that's really where the other half of the mission comes into play, is how do we get people to hunt? Where we need to have them there, and we need those healthy forests to do it.
So along with helping other species, you're also helping industry?
Helping industry, we're helping community.
Building industry.
Wow.
We're like it.
So, but we have to find different ways to do it.
Right.
Because if the Hewlett, Wyoming community dissolves because of a lost jobs or we can't do something, that then is not going to be there to support the tourists that are coming into turkey hunting. You need that too. You need an economy year round for that.
Wow.
And you need the people in that community.
That's so interesting. I'm fascinated by the fact that you guys are literally building economies. Like you're building like the town's economy.
We hope that's the outcome. And as a nonprofit, it is our job to ensure that the industry is relevant, because we need to harvest trees. We need healthy forests. And the way we do that is by having all the industry healthy.
So when it comes to the outreach and reaching new demographics, reaching younger audiences, that's the biggest problem in this industry right now. That's what wakes us up every morning. That's what drives our team, is getting new people into the outdoors. When we developed the Greenway Outdoors, we looked at the entire marketplace and we're like, man, the entire industry is filled with kill shot shows with no realism, depth, conservation story, no real storytelling. And we were like, this isn't going to bring millennials and Generation Z into it. The GoPro filming is not a thing anymore. And that's why we developed the highest production quality that we possibly could, but also built the show in a way. It was kind of funny. Millennials and Generation Z at the time, when we first started, their biggest content that they watched was reality shows, which didn't surprise me, but cooking shows did. So we included a cooking segment in our show because we found that really resonated. That field-to-table approach was one of the big ways we brought younger audiences in, and then also going on these adventures that people would be inspired to want to do. We have something called the Greenway Gear Checklist that tells them all the gear that they would need for the hunting or fishing trip that we do in the episode. We give them the conservation for the species. When we're talking about turkeys, in 1960 in Michigan, the wild turkey was all but extinct. And now, because of the National Wild Turkey Federation, people buy their hunting and fishing licenses. People have that self-excise tax on hunting and fishing equipment. Now we have a huntable population. And that it really is truly the hunters and conservationists that give us our future, that give us actual huntable populations. We want turkeys to be here more than anyone.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point because originally the NWTF had 3 outreach programs, and in 1981 started JAKES, which is Juniors Acquiring Knowledge, Ethics, and Sportsmanship, so aimed at kids. Then we added...
I like the name Jakes, though. It is
it's perfect, right?
It's not bad.
And then we started the Women in the Outdoors program. And
is it hens related or no?
No,
you didn't go with,
we didn't
okay.
stick with the theme. So Women in the Outdoors was added, and then we have a Wheeling Sportsman program for disabled people. But what we've learned is that there are people that don't fall into those 3 categories. So what do you do if you're, a 30-year-old man who wants to hunt? You don't fit into one of those categories. So we started adjusting. We didn't stop what we were doing, but we started adding other audiences. And one of the ways that we've worked to kind of attract different people and people that might be interested in the food side of it, we host Field to Fork events where you'll, harvest the game from your hunt, and then we'll cook it right there in front of you.
I love that.
Yeah, we will teach people how to field dress through the whole process. So originally outreach programs were, really kind of a one and done thing. But what we've learned through recruitment, retention, reactivation research is that you really have to keep following people through that process. So one and done event isn't really going to do anything.
No, I completely agree. And to your point too, you're kind of seeing the same thing, that field to fork kind of thing. I love that phrase, field to fork. And seeing that retention has to keep coming at them. It's like sales 101, right? Yeah. You just keep knocking on that door until finally you get them in.
Yeah, and it's like any other sport. If I wanted to learn how to play golf and somebody showed me, one time, I could probably pick it up and figure it out myself. But think about how complex hunting is. There's no way I can show you one time and then, you could probably figure it out, but a lot of people want that support and help along the way, and they need the social support. That's where NWTF also really puts a lot of emphasis, is people will not continue hunting along that path if they don't have the social support. So if I don't have some people around me that are like-minded, I'm probably not going to continue it. Like-minded
is important, and also humility can go a long way, right? It's like being really kind to people.
Yeah.
And it's no secret that 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55. And
pale, male, and stale.
That's
what we call it. Yeah.
Ah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, so you get it.
Yeah.
You're right in the same thing. And I'm going to be real. You go to, we've gone to an archery store, and you walk in, and no matter how much you know, it seems like you're being talked to as if you know nothing.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And kind of that demeanor of, there's a lot of ego, especially in hunting, and I blame it on the fact that there's no grading scale. You can't get like an A- or a B+ and have it, like there's no grading scale.
Yeah.
And so everyone's the greatest, and I think too is like people are very protective over their spots. People are very protective over their strategies. But we as a community, as hunters, have to be so welcoming and so warm, because I will tell you what, as cool as it is to get a turkey, it is so much cooler to see someone get their first turkey.
Oh, yeah.
And I probably sound like a broken record because I say these things all the time, and people have said it, but it would really make me happy to see newer demographics feeling super welcomed in the sport. And I feel the same way about the church as well, as like welcoming more people in a super humble and kind way goes a long way. So if you're watching this and you're like, okay, I probably could invite one more person out to my spot, or I could do this, or that single mom that has a kid that's never got to go out before, maybe I could take them out, or maybe I could take, maybe take your girlfriend out, quit giving excuses why she can't go, get people, get different demos and new people, in the outdoors. And I have an interview today with Darrell Smith.
He's a good friend of mine. He and Ashley have worked with us quite a bit with their Minority Outdoor Alliance.
Well, and that's the thing, is he's such a great guy, and talking to him, he's very smart, he's very intelligent, he knows everything there is to know about hunting, especially his expertise in upland and turkey hunting and that sort of thing. But he's feet on the street, being kind to everyone he interacts with, getting new people involved. That's so important. It's like, I guess at the end of the day, it's like the golden rule is like treat others the way you want to be treated.
I'd like to say he is an upland hunter, and that is a strong upland hunter attribute. Is they're very welcoming to their sport, and I don't know why it is specifically them.
I know why it is, because it's miserable walking 15 miles,
No.
and it's like they want someone else to be miserable with them.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's a social sport, though.
Yeah,
You don't have to sit and be quiet and not move, and so I think that makes a difference.
But yeah, he's definitely someone who, like, if everyone had that mentality of getting more people involved, if everyone was like that, there would be a lot more people involved.
And we need to be more like that for all the reasons you've mentioned, but also hunting's on the decline. I mean, the hunter participation has declined since 1980s. We've seen that. So there's a little blip there around COVID because everybody had time to hunt.
Yep.
But to me, what's even more important than, I mean, it's obviously that's a concern because we want to continue hunting, we want to continue our tradition, but the diversity is key because the world's changing. And it's not going to look like it does right now in 10 years. So
No.
we definitely want to look more like the world, you know. And I think that we have to think about when we want to invite people to come hunting with us, we need to think about that. We need to, make it more welcoming. So I 100% agree with you. I think you're onto something there.
Well, and it's all headed in a downward spiral. Like I said, if 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males of the age of 55, then that means roughly 60% of even the National Wild Turkey Federation's membership, I can guarantee, is following the same statistics.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Possibly worse.
Yeah.
And the problem is in 15 years, it's over 55, but that doesn't mean they're all 55. That includes 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds. The problem is in about 10 to 12 years, we're going to lose 60% of the funding. So everything we've talked about on this podcast is great. Everything we've been doing on this, talking about all the initiatives that National Wild Turkey Federation has, we're on a 12-year clock, people, and we have to get the younger generations involved.
Yeah.
No pressure for your job. Good Lord.
Exactly, right? Well, one of the places where you find diverse young people are colleges. So we've worked with a lot of different college programs. There's a handful out there, but college students, a lot of them, if they haven't had the opportunity to hunt, they are able to go back and hunt themselves. That's one thing about youth. It's awesome to introduce you to hunting, but if they don't have a parent or a guardian who's willing to take them and carry that on, it's likely, they might be advocates for hunting, but they might not get to continue. Whereas a college student, they have the means to do that.
Yeah.
And it's funny,
awesome.
we always thought, college students probably don't have the money to continue. I don't know what happened between the time I graduated and now, but they've got the money. They have the means, and it's becoming a really popular target audience for us because they're diverse, they're young, they're awesome, they're fun to work with. They want to be there.
When you go there, how are you? Are you going to the biology groups and talking to them, or?
No. Well, yes and no. There are some programs. LSU.
She goes, oh God, no.
There are some programs like that. LSU has a program where. Because actually a lot of wildlife majors are not hunters now, which used to be the case. Everybody hunted if you're a wildlife major, but now they're not.
I've heard that people that hunt don't want to do the wildlife majors because they say it turns their work, their fun into work. I disagree. I live, sleep, breathe, and eat this, and it's great every day. So they made the wrong choice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there are some programs that target students that are in wildlife, but we also try to find students that are maybe have never hunted, never been outdoors. And the way to successfully do it is to have really a professor and an advisor that can get your foot in the door and really help you get access to
awesome.
the students. But we have a program called, name of it. Let me think. Academics Afield. Yeah. So there's a program called Academics Afield, and it's a bunch.
That's not the easiest one to remember.
Well,
I'm right there.
Right? It was really hard. But so Academics Afield has done a lot of different research to find out how to target the kids that are in colleges, and it has been an amazing program because what they do is what I kind of talked about earlier. They'll give people one opportunity to learn to hunt. They kind of take them through the whole process. And what is really cool is the graduates of that program end up being mentors. So if they love it and, want to stick around, then they end up mentoring the next person. So it's a really good cycle.
That's amazing.
It's like a good sorority.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a little, and then you become the big.
Well, it's when I think of college campus, it doesn't seem like a well-accepted idea?
No, not so much anymore, but a lot of college students are interested in hunting.
That's awesome.
Do you think it's the feel of the fork?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I think
like the organic eating and
like
all that?
75% of participants, something like that. There was a study that just came out that 75% of people that are hunting now are hunting for food.
That's so
which
great.
is kind of, I think, a switch from the trophy days, you know, the big buck, whatever. But
Yeah.
people are looking for healthy sources of food.
It's worth noting, too, like, you guys, compared to, like, the other conservation groups, you guys are kind of cheating because, like, everybody likes turkey. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, that's
true.
like,
That
as
is
far as
true.
meat goes, like,
Yeah.
listen, I love the duck hunt. You eat a turkey, it's just a little bit
Yeah,
better.
turkey's definitely.
Yeah.
What is your favorite wild turkey recipe?
My family, our favorite recipe that I make myself with my turkeys, I'll do chili, and it's kind of like a taco chili. And my kids are so funny. Like if I make other chili, like with hamburger meat, they'll say, "Is that wild turkey?" No, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. See what I'm
I love
saying?
it.
Like, not a lot of people pulling that plug on a lot of the others.
Yeah, we all hunt together. My family, we're all hunters. I didn't grow up as a hunter, but my husband introduced me, and then we've introduced our kids. So they prefer wild game. I mean, they're kind of snobs when it comes to that.
So I'm recently married, and my wife does not hunt. How did your husband do it? How did he get?
Well,
she's not against it by any means,
Right.
but she just doesn't do it.
Well, I think deep down I had a desire to hunt, and I just didn't know it.
Okay.
So we started like going, you know, I just ride with him to scout or do whatever, and it was very much a progression
Progressive.
for me because he would point out things, and I'm like, oh, you can tell what animals. I mean, just simple things.
Yeah.
You know, I just had not been outdoors that much, so looking for tracks. And then the next thing you know, he's like, well, let's teach you how to shoot, which was a whole different story because I'm right eye dominant and left hand dominant, you know, crazy
I'm in that
stuff.
club.
Yeah.
I'm in the club. Yep.
But over time, he let me be the one to say, hey, I want to go with you. He didn't try to
Okay.
push me. So I think that's the key.
It's funny you're saying that because I've kind of taken that approach. I've let her be around it, but I haven't pushed it on her. And we
Kind of seems like she's out for blood now.
It
Yeah.
does. We got her out bow fishing, and
She's obsessed.
She lives for it now.
That
This
is
entire
awesome.
winter, she's just, I want to go. Once the ice melts, we're going.
Well, my family kind of thought I was crazy because I've never been much of an outdoors person. So the more, I mean, it's really just become, well, I've dedicated my career to it. I've worked with the Federation for 20 years, and I was
Did you
like,
start when you were 5?
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. She's like, "What's that?"
No, I was like 6 months pregnant, turkey hunting, and
Nice.
with my husband, yeah, and
So-
my father-in-law. He felt like he needed to go because I
That's
think
like
he
going
was
grocery shopping hungry. You're eating for 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I got to get this
Like,
bird.
We need a turkey. But my father-in-law was just, he could not understand why I wanted to go hunting, you know, and being pregnant. And it was so funny. I had to cross like a little, you know, creek, and he was like, oh, I don't know if you should do that. You know, it's just so funny to them that I want to be there, you
Yeah.
know, but they're used to it now. And we've taken, you know, our nieces and we've taken our neighbors. And so we're
That's
just kind of
great.
creating our own little
Community.
band of turkey hunters.
Nice.
That's
great.
awesome. Yeah, and like I said, as far as turkey goes too, it's a little bit easier for people to get introduced into hunting with a bird or a fish.
Yeah.
You know, as far as that goes, and like I said, turkey being so good to eat. I got to tell you, my favorite recipe, and you'll have to try it. So what we do is we take a wild turkey breast, and don't worry, we take the legs too. We're not those guys. don't think we're those guys. Where we just breast them out and leave
Yeah,
them. But
just-
we'll take a breast, and we chop them up into cubes, and then we soak them in milk for 12 hours, and then I mix 1/3 flour, 1/3 breadcrumbs, and 1/3 pancake mix. It used to be called Aunt Jemima.
Pancake
Lord
mix.
knows what they
Okay.
call it now, but that brand. And I do a third, and then I use a little bit of Rufus Teague chicken seasoning. Okay, and you're gonna lose it. So you take that, you take it out of the milk, roll it in the breadcrumbs and stuff, cover it with the seasoning. Normally I do the seasoning first, then the pile of flour, breadcrumbs, and the pancake mix, and then we deep fry it, but we do it in peanut oil.
Oh, that's the secret, huh?
For 8.5 minutes at like 425 or whatever it is in the oil, and you pull it out, and it'll be crispy on the outside, and then we put buffalo sauce on it and dip it in
Yum.
ranch, and it's like the greatest boneless buffalo wings you've ever had.
That
You bite
sounds
in it's
wonderful.
white meat. Yes. Yeah.
So we had a group from Clemson University that we had taken through the whole process, learned to hunt, then taken them on a hunt. And so my coworker made turkey nuggets for them. Kind of similar, but not as spicy. But it was the funniest thing as he they were eating them right out of the fryer, and one of the kids goes, "It's better than Chick-fil-A." That might be the best compliment you can ever get.
Especially on a Sunday, you know what I'm saying? Like,
So, yeah.
No other options.
There you go. That's right.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
This was fantastic. The information was great. I feel really content knowing we're representing NWTF. I feel really content pushing our followers to buy, the membership with you guys, because if they haven't heard where the money goes and that hasn't excited them, or the fact that if you love turkey hunting and you want to protect it, we need you guys.
Absolutely.
So thank you for your work. Thank you for being with them for so long, representing them in this way, getting out there and hunting at 6 months pregnant.
That's right.
And
yeah.
Of course, coming on our podcast. We want to thank you so much for tuning into the Greenway Outdoors podcast. If you would, go check out thegreenwayoutdoors.com. We've got full episodes of our actual TV show there. And as you know, in the second half of 2023, we are going to be coming to the outdoor block of History Channel. We can't wait to share those new episodes with you. Think cinematic movie meets hunting conservation and the content you've finally been waiting for. We have a weekly video podcast right here on our website, as well as Carbon TV and everywhere you can find podcasts. Look at our online series, The Huntcast, on our website at thegreenwayoutdoors.com. And finally, interact with us on social media and let us know what how-to videos you'd like us to add to our outdoor education series. Thanks so much for tuning in, and stay green.